Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name is Amanda and in today's video we are going to be doing a autumn marble nail art tutorial, so I really hope you all enjoy watching. I have been wanting to do some marbles with the new Indian summer collection ever since they launched, and I'm really excited to share these ones with you. Now before we jump into the nail art, I'm just going to explain my bases. So I already have some nude press-on nails on my nails, but whenever I wear press-ons, I like to come over the top of them with the rubber bases. I used to use the Easy Build-Up gel over the top of them, but since we have the rubber colour bases, I tend to use these over the top. Now these are already nude press-on nails. They don't actually need a nude colour, but I love adding the rubber colour bases over my press-ons because I find it gives them a little bit of extra strength. It certainly makes them feel a lot more hardy and stronger on the nails, especially if you're like myself and quite hard on your natural or on your extensions or enhancements, whichever you would prefer to call them. So I have already popped these press-on nails on. I did file off the design that I originally had on them, and they were a little bit thinner than I wanted them to be. So I'm going to come in and do 2 coats of RB14. Now RB14 is quite a sheer nude, so if you are applying this over clear nails or if you was applying it over your natural nails, it may look slightly different here because I've already got a nude colour on the press-on nails. But what had happened is when I'd filed my press-on nails, I'd filed them probably slightly thinner in some areas than others, and they looked a little bit patchy. And by applying this colour over the top, it evened out that patchiness quite a lot and gave me a nice nude base to work on top of. Now the reason I'm doing the 2 coats is because I want the colour to look quite even, as on the middle 2 nails we're going to be doing marble Frenches, so you are going to see this colour on those nails. And then, like I said, I wanted the additional strength. So I did 1 coat on all of the nails, cured that for 30 seconds. And then on the second coat, I like to come in with my striped liner brush and just get a little bit closer to the cuticle area and just make it a little bit neater. Sometimes I'll do this on both coats, so I'll do it on both the first and second coat. But because we were going over the nude nails here, I decided to just get closer to the cuticles on 1 coat, just so I wasn't giving myself a too bulky cuticle area, because sometimes press-ons can look a little bit bulkier at the cuticle depending on how you've applied them. Now if you make press-on nails for clients, I would highly recommend doing a layer of a rubber base coat over them before you go in with your design, just because it makes them that ever so slightly thicker and ever so slightly stronger, especially when your clients are applying them at home using glue or the double-sided tabs. So yeah, if you don't already do that, I would definitely recommend giving it a go, especially if you're going to be adding a nude colour into your set anyway. So for example, if you were doing a French set of press-on nails, I would do the nude colour with the rubber bases rather than a nude gel polish, just so that they've got that extra strength to them. So once I've finished applying the second coat, we're going to cure this for 30 seconds. And then here we have our nude bases ready to go for our marble nail art, which is the fun part. So like I mentioned, I'm going to be using some colours from the Indian summer collection. So I'm going to be using Violet Dawn, which is that gorgeous purple, which is one of my favourites. I'm wearing this on my other hand just on its own. It's such a beautiful colour. Then we've got Dahlia, Mellow Rose, Earthy Brown, and then I wanted to add some glitter into my marble. I just wanted a hint of sparkle in there, so I went for Brown Billionaire. This is from the Reflective Glitter collection and it is absolutely stunning, but it is the most beautiful brownie amber gold glitter for autumn. If you don't have this one for autumn, it's definitely one I would recommend adding to your basket. So for my marble today, I'm going to do it a little bit different to how I've been doing my marbles lately. I'm going to apply all 5 colours to, well actually no, I'm going to add all 4 of the gel polish shades to my palette to begin with, and I'm just going to pop enough down that I've got enough to do my marbles on all 5 nails. So as you can see, I'm just getting those colours nice and close together. Then with the Brown Billionaire, rather than adding it as a separate line, I'm going to take my striped liner brush and just put this in between the colours here and there. So So I started off by doing this by taking it from my bottle brush, but as you can see, I started adding a colour onto my bottle brush, and you don't want to do this. So what I did is popped some down onto my palette, which is what I should have done from the beginning. This way is a lot easier to pick up the gel and add it into your marble, and it does also mean that you've got some there on your palette if you want to add any additional glitter through your marble as you're doing it. Now, what I normally would do is swirl these colours together on my palette and then add them to the nail, but I decided to do it differently today. But we are still going to do our same step of applying our blooming gel. So the Kiki London blooming gel is absolutely brilliant for marble nails, whether you're wanting to do full cover marble nails, French marble nails, or what I'm going to do on the thumbnail, which is just like a hint of marble. I will always use my blooming gel, as I find it just makes the marble go on effortlessly and really blends everything out nicely. So I've applied a thin coat of that just to my pointer finger to begin with, and then I'm going to take my ombre brush, my round nail art brush, and pick up the colours, and I'm simply going to drag through all the colours, scoop them up onto my brush and start gently laying them down into the blooming gel. So I start with the side of the brush that doesn't have the gel polish on it, and then just gently wriggle it off and then flip over. And then I'm just going across the nail, and what happens is where you've got the blooming gel on the nail, one, this helps pull that colour off of the brush onto the nail, and it just helps those colours merge and mix together. It basically helps them bloom together a lot easier, and in my opinion a lot nicer than when you don't use the blooming gel. If you don't use the blooming gel, sometimes the colours are literally going to stay where you place them down rather than mixing and running into each other, and then this gives you a lot more of a softer natural marble look. Now here what I'm also doing is I'm taking my strap liner brush and just coming around that cuticle area just so I could get some colour up in the cuticle zone without making too much of a messy cuticle. I did still end up hitting my cuticle a little bit, so I'm then coming in with my angled nail art brush and just cleaning up with a little bit of alcohol. You want to make sure you remove any product that you have got on the cuticles before popping it into cure, but of course it is always best to try and avoid getting any product on the cuticles to begin with, but sometimes accidents happen. Now once I was happy with that marble, I'm going to pop it into cure for 30 seconds. I didn't want it to overly bloom, and I didn't want to smudge it while I was working on the next nail. If you're working on a client, you could happily do all the marbles and then pop them into cure, because obviously it's a little bit easier than when you're working on yourself. So we are going to do the same again on the little finger. So I'm coming in, applying that blooming gel, keeping it nice and thin. You don't need a thick layer of this, but I do like to apply it to the entire nail if I'm doing a full marble. Then I'm going to scoop up my gel polish. I'm just showing you guys here, I'm using the brush that hasn't got the gel polish on it to begin with, the side of the brush that hasn't got the gel polish on it to begin with, that was meant to say. And then I flip it over, and then by doing the marble this way, I kind of find that it's a little bit easier to add more of just a certain two colors if you want to. So on this now, I started off and I had a lot more of Mellow Rose and Dahlia. So then when I come in to do the tip of the nail, I didn't scoop all the way through those colors. I just went in to Earthy Brown and Violet Dawn and added them to the tip of the nail. Same again, I'm going to come in with my cuticle area so I can get that marble right up close to the cuticle. And then also if you want to add in any little bits of colour here and there. So for example, there was just a little bit too much brown on the tip of the nail. So I just added a little bit of Dahlia along the edges. And then I come in with a little bit of that brown Billionaire glitter just to run that through as well. And I really loved how this looked. One thing I love about marbles is there are so many different techniques and ways of doing them, and no two marbles will ever look the same. So let me know in the comments below how you do your marble nails. So that's our two full cover marble nails done. On the middle and ring finger, I wanted to do a French marble. So what I'm going to do is I'm starting off by taking some of Earthy Brown on the palette and my French brush, and I'm going to do a base of where I want my marble to go. Of course, you could come straight in and just do your marble, but personally I find it a little bit easier if I've already created my French with a colour first of all. And I always like to use a colour that's from the marble. So Earthy Brown was the one I opted for here. Although you're not necessarily going to see any of this colour, it just gives you a guide of where you're going to place your marble down. And then if there was any gaps in your marble, you wouldn't see it because you wouldn't see the nude through the marble basically because you've got the earthy brown down. So with the French brush, I like to load it up with a generous amount of gel polish, and then I just place it down using one side, flip it over and use the other side, keeping it quite flat to the nail, and then it just creates the perfect French effortlessly. I then did come in before curing with my round nail art brush, and I'm just going to clean up any areas that I want it to look a little bit sharper and a little bit crisper. Again, this step is kind of optional because you're going to be coming over the top with the marble anyway, so you could just clean up with the round nail art brush once you're doing the marble, but I decided to do it on both steps just to make sure that everything was nice and clean and as crisp as I could get it. And then I'm going to switch back to that French brush and just make sure that I'm coming down the wings enough, just so again it's just a guide, but I like to make sure that I've got my base underneath nice and neat, because then the blooming gel marble goes on a lot easier in my opinion. So we're going to just do one coat of that. You don't need the two coats, and then we're going to pop that into cure for 30 seconds. And then once again, we're going to be using our blooming gel for the marble, but this time I'm going to pop a little bit down on my palette, and I'm going to take the Kiki London stripe liner brush. You could do this step with the French brush, but I found it a little bit easier to do it with the stripe liner brush. I'm literally going to paint over the top of the earthy brown with the blooming gel. You don't have to stress about this being super neat because it's clear, and we're going to clean up once we've got our marble on anyway. But I'm trying to not apply too much of this because I don't want a too bulky tip. So keeping it nice and thin and just covering the earthy brown. And then we're going to come in and add our marble pretty much the same as what we did on the other nails. So I'm scooping it up and then just very gently rolling it into that uncured blooming gel. And then what I'm going to do is bring it down as much as I can with the round nail art brush, but then I'll switch to that stripe liner brush and use this to pull it down into the wings, going into that gel polish and grabbing a little bit more if I need it. And because we've got the earthy brown there as a guide, you haven't got to stress about creating the French shape because you've already created it. Personally, I find it a lot harder trying to create a French shape with a marbled gel polish. It's a lot easier having that already done underneath with whichever color you chose to do it with, because then you can just lay your marble down and follow the color underneath. So again, here we're doing exactly the same as before. I always like to come in with a stripe liner brush, add a little bit more color. For example, here we've got a lot of the Violet Dawn and the Earthy Brown. So I just took a little bit Dahlia on my brush and pulled that down. And then again, this is where we come in with the round nail art brush and just go right along the edge and clean up. And this will give you that super crisp, sharp line. And I have to say, I think these two nails in this set were my absolute favorite. I love a French design, and it's always fun doing something different than a plain tip. I also thought this could look really good if you added some decals or some stamping where the French meets the nude. I thought that could look quite cute as well, but I kept this set just marbles because that was the look we were going for today. So then I'm going to pop those two nails in to cure, and then all that's left to do is our thumbnail. So I wanted to do something a little bit different on the thumb. So I'm going to come in and apply my blooming gel to the entire nail, exactly the same as what we did when we were working on the full cover marble nails. So keeping it nice and thin. You also want to be careful when you're working around that cuticle area. If you can, pull back the skin at the sidewalls so you can get nice and close to the sidewalls without touching any of the skin. Again, this is something that's a lot easier to do when you're working on a client. And then for this part of the design, I'm going to just use my stripe liner brush. So I'm going to drag that through all four colours and then just wriggle that blooming gel down in the corner near the cuticle area. And then we're going to do the tip on the opposite nail. And then because you're not doing a full cover marble, it's going to bloom where we've applied that blooming gel to the entire nail. It's going to bloom around the edges of where you're applying the marble down. And it gives this really soft, marbly watercolour look. So again, I'm just using the stripe liner brush to nudge those colours around. They marble very effortlessly, but if you do want to play around with them, swirl the colours together a little bit more, you can. But the blooming gel does do a lot of the work for you. I took this down a little bit further than I wanted it to go, so I'm just wiping it off with my round nail art brush, and then again just fixing up with my stripe liner brush. Now you can leave this to bloom for a little bit longer if you want to, and then it would create that more smoky effect where it meets the nude, but I quite liked how it was looking, so I got it straight in to cure for 30 seconds. Now that all of our marbles are done, we need to seal them in with our top coat. When I'm working over the top of a marble design, I always use my no wipe rubber top coat. This is just because depending on your application, or sometimes it just happens with marbles, it can look a little bit uneven. It won't look super uneven because the gel polish colors do self-level, but you might just notice there's a few areas that are not completely smooth. So by coming in with the no wipe rubber top coat, it completely smooths out any unevenness. Because it's a rubber top coat, it is that little bit thicker. And again, where these are just press-on nails, I like to add in a bit of strength. So coming in with the rubber top coat gives you that extra layer of added strength. And I just find that it's brilliant for coming over any kind of nail art because I don't get any chipping or anything like that. Now, if you still feel as though the nails look a little bit uneven once you've applied your rubber top coat, you can hold your hand upside down for a few seconds to help speed up the self-leveling process. And then once you're happy with how they're looking, you just want to get that straight in to cure. The no wipe rubber top coat does require a 60-second cure, so do make sure that you're curing for a full 60 seconds. That's if you're using an LED lamp. Now, usually I will top coat my thumbs separately because I kind of like to do my thumbs separately, although the Kiki London lamp does allow for good curing of all 5 nails. Normally I would do my thumbs separate, but I didn't in today's case. But that is something to bear in mind if you're working on clients. Make sure that they're placing their thumbs in and the thumbs are getting in the light correctly. And then lastly, all we have left to do is apply our cuticle oil. So today I opted for the Sweet Peach, and I'm just going to apply a drop of this to all of the nails. My nails really needed this because before we started the nail art, as I mentioned, I had been filing and I was a bit heavy, so I'd caught my skin in a few places. So this really nourishes and replenishes those cuticles, especially now we're going to start going into the colder months as well. I find that my skin can get quite dry, and what I like to do is add a drop of the cuticle oil into my moisturizer, and that leaves your skin feeling super soft. So definitely give that a try if you haven't already. And then this, guys, is the finished result. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any marble related questions, do pop them in the comments below. I'm always happy to help. If you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up. As always, I will leave all of the products I've used linked in the description box below. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.